worked on a number of Scion 2E projects, although not this one. I'm here to ask those sort of questions that someone who knows nothing about things needs to ask. And Kat.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Kat. I use he or they pronouns. I write things, I develop things, including Titans Rising, and I'm here to give Hiromi very significant looks and shout no spoilers on command, on demand.
I'll try not to be the Tom Holland of this bunch.
The problem is I am also the Tom Holland of this bunch. I'm in a very difficult position.
Uh, I guess we'll go with the very salient and basic question of what the fuck are we talking about? Which is we're talking about Titans Rising and also Tatanamaki, the Kickstarter. So we just launched, what, 2 hours ago? A little over 2 hours ago. And the idea is that we have a new book for Scion, Titans Rising. We want to get it a cool full print run so that you get the nice binding, the cool paper, and all that good stuff. And Tatanomaki, which came out several years ago and covers similar material from like a little bit lower power level. It sold really well. People love it. It's a great book. I have a nope, that's one of my novels. Sorry. But it didn't get a full print run. It's only available on print on demand right now. But with this Kickstarter, we can fix that and get everything the cool, sexy paper and glossy and full binding that everyone would like. So sort of the next thing is, what's Titans Rising and why is it different than Tatanamaki, and why did we need a Tatanamaki 2? That's a very pointed way to put that. I don't know why I did that to myself, so I'm going to pass it on to someone else. Would anyone like to field that? What's the big difference between Titans Rising and Tatanamaki? This is probably for Kat because it's a high level question.
So I like it when I get to answer first because then anything I say sounds fresh and interesting. So I can talk and then everybody else can tell me can tell you out there in chat, hi chat, all the more interesting stuff there is to say. But high level, there are two big differences between Titanomachy and Titans Rising. And the first is that y'all have made a lot of books since Titanomachy came out, like a lot of books. We are up to, I think, 23 pantheons now in Scion. And some of those were twinkles in Writer's eye when Titanomachy came out. So we have expanded all of the goodness that's in Titanomachy with, I want to say it's 15 additional pantheons. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around that number. And the other major difference is that in Titanomachy, they were very much presented as the enemies of the gods and as antagonists for your divine scions. And in Titans Rising, you can play them. You can play Titans now. You should play Titans now because they're really cool.
Yes. In fact, the backers of the Kickstarter right now have access to a lot of the fun stuff that is just this is what it's like to play as a Titan. I believe including the 5 ready-made characters, which are delightful. You can just pick them up and play, and you are instantly good to go for running up to 5 people as a all Titans, or rather all Titanic Scions campaign. And speaking of an all Titans game, Amos, you want to spoil anything?
Yes. I am. God, it didn't start out like this. I spoil things in what manner? But just so I'm not spoiling anything too crazy.
I'd say
So
that cool secret
the
project
actual
you have coming
play.
up.
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry.
The actual play?
Oh yes. Oh God. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
We have we're setting stuff up. We're gonna do a sort of showcase, if you would, a little preview of what Titans Rising is gonna look like, and some material from it. We've settled on Friday 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not this upcoming Friday, but starting the following Friday. Very excited. We've got Hiromi, we've got Travis, we've got a couple other people that I chose to be players just because they're relatively inexperienced with Scion, and I kind of wanted to help showcase that this is not a book that's going to be too terribly difficult for anyone to kind of pick up. It's still, it's handling heavier and like more advanced things, I would say, but it's not difficult to learn.
Yeah. Um, so like one of the big differences with Titans Rising into Tanemaki is that in addition to all of the additional pantheons and all of the scope that's covered there, it's also a matter of power level, because in Tanemaki, there were only two power levels. You could be Origin before you were before you knew that you were the child of a god, and Hero just after that, and Demigod and God had not been available before that, and God's not out yet. However, I was also the developer for God, so I could knit the books together tightly enough that if you want to be a full Titan, taking on a full God, and have just the most epic clashes or undermining or whatever you would like, you can blow up Asgard if you want. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be really, really hard, but it's possible. And if that is the goal of your campaign because the Aesir have wronged you in some way, you can do it. Again, it's really hard, but if it's your life's goal, and you get enough other Titans to help you, it's totally a thing. So who has something they would like to brag about real quick? I mean, oh no.
No, I'm just trying not to. I mean, you get me started. I'm like, Luis in the Ant-Man movies. You put the dime in and you just got to let it play out. So I was waiting to make sure I wasn't going to talk over anybody. I actually got to write, I think, what did I do? 4 or 5 Pantheon? I did a bunch of the Pantheons. And it was fun to get to revisit some things that hadn't been touched for a little bit, and to kind of expand and upgrade those things. And I think that we really did some fun things with trying to knit together more of the pantheons. Is one of the things that I really enjoy about Scion is that when you approach myths in a traditional mythological way, a lot of those it's a silo, right? You have a bunch of different silos sitting next to each other, because most of the time you don't get to see how the Atua and the Planton or whoever might interlock with each other, and where their interests overlap or break, and that I think we did a lot of fun things with. We do a lot of fun things with that in Scion in general. But in Titans Rising, that was a lot of fun, and being able to take the antagonists and make sure that the antagonists were talking to the Pantheon, was talking to the, you know, all of those kinds of things, was something that was really a lot of fun. And we have some new things that we brought in, as far as trying to be a little tongue-in-cheek about it, but also bring some like things that are current that you can play with. You know, the concept of you know, NFTs and cryptocurrency certainly shows up a few times. I'm very excited about that. And I'm sitting over here playing with my bracelet. I have the Tumblr Give Me Back My Money in Nasir, and that's as close to a spoiler as I'm going to give about that right now. But we were able to take those things and say, well, how do these, you know, beings from outside traditional reality, I guess is the best way to put it, interact with these concepts, and how do they use those things when they are handling their followers? You know, how do you build those things? And that was a lot of fun to do, and I'm really excited to see, you know, hopefully people enjoy, you know, that with us.
Yeah, it should be super fun. And because Spider brought it up, and because it's actually kind of up on the Kickstarter right now. So just above the stretch goals on the main Kickstarter, you'll see a picture of someone who looks very sketchy, and whose illusory disguise is fading. That's a scion of Ian Nasser, who is world renowned for thousands of years for not being a great source of copper.
I will say, you know what, you want to know what I'm proud of? I'm proud of the fact that I got to write in this book that Nasir was the example of a shady businessman. And I like, that is like, someone told me it was a Pratchettian pun, and I have been floating on that since they said that. So you want to know what I'm proud of? It's that one pun, and then everything else I did.
Her example was really good pun.
Thank you.
For folks who don't have Mesopotamia on the brain, Ur is a city.
Ur is the city that Nasir is either from or worked in. So it's not just like that, it's just that was the city he was from. So that's that. I'm a super big nerd, and that was a fun nerdy joke. But the other thing is that like that we got to put that stuff in, and there's a lot of tongue-in-cheekness in the way that a lot of us write, but it's not silly. Like there are some very serious things, you know, that we're able to touch on while still also being lighthearted about it, and making the jokes that we make. And that's one of the things that I find very fun, you know, about Scion in general. And definitely when you're playing with the Titans, it gives you the ability to touch on these more serious things, but in a way that is fun still, and doesn't necessarily have to club you over the head with the seriousness of it. And also gives us the ability to play with the idea that Titanhood, the Titanomachy, all of these things, they are not things that are you know, binary absolutes. You can be a Titan and also a god. You can be a Titan and also a primordial. You can be a Titan, a god, a primordial, and a dragon if you're Tiamat, apparently. So, you know, like you can be all of these things, right? All of these things and more. And being able to play with that overlap is a lot of fun, and puts together a lot of possibilities. And because people are complicated, so why should deities be any less complicated?
Yeah. Zachary, do you have anything that you're particularly proud of?
I am very. I'll have to wait till the antagonist section to come out to see how much of it stuck. But I am very happy with many of my little monsters. Most all my writing is in the antagonist section on this. And it was fun to kind of play with some of what was out there and find ways to pull on the thread that is provided and kind of expand that and make that come alive.
Yeah. Yeah, the antagonist section is just full of gems. And has James said when people get to see it?
It is. So it's the schedule for the updates or the manuscript previews is the this week. Right now we have the like the first chapters. For covering Titanic Scions. September 5th will be the preview for the Titanic Pantheons Part 1. September 12th will be Titanic Pantheons Part 2. September 19th is story guiding and plot hooks, and September 26th will be birthrights and antagonists.
So it'll be a little bit before folks get to see the birthrights and antagonists, but it'll be worth the wait. And Ramos, did you have anything that you're particularly proud of that you want to brag about?
Yeah, this was my first time writing on Scion, and I was very excited, and my life was kind of falling apart, so I was happy to just even be involved. But there's one thing that kind of stuck out, and it's a small part of what I was able to contribute, but it's a what can I say? I also don't want to be the Tom Holland of this. Like I said, this was my first time writing, and I don't want to be that guy.
Honestly, backers will get the whole manuscript before the Kickstarter's done. So
Excellent.
I was mostly kidding about spoilers. It's because I don't have anything else to do. Don't worry.
Understood. I was able to contribute toward one of the guides, and I remember looking into some stuff and what would be a good guide for part of the pantheons that I was assigned. And I came across a creature that I couldn't find like a traditional name for. It just kept coming up as coffin crocodiles, and I was immediately like, this is the greatest thing in the world. I want a crocodile with a coffin or a tomb strapped to its back. This is the coolest fucking thing in the world. Yeah, that's what I'm most proud of. Yeah.
So that was also one of the things when I was developing the Birthrights and Antagonists chapter that made me go, yes, this.
Yeah, I was very excited about it.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can get art of that, because I can't see how it wouldn't make for an amazing piece.
They're so fun. They're so fun. And reading into like the mythology of it and like what they do, they just go ham. I love it so much. I love them so much.
Kat, you have anything that you want to brag about?
Mostly I want to brag about getting to work with all of these cool people. The best part of developing any book is when you get your first drafts in and you get to see what everybody got excited about. And as I was reading the whole of Titans Rising, I was like, yeah, you all were excited about everything. Everything in this book feels like either a work that comes from a place of deep knowledge or deep love, or just a joke that you've been waiting to tell for 5 years. And all of those things are just excellent components in a book. And some of them are all three. And Nasir. So I'm at the point where it's really, really difficult to like tease out any one thing that I love more than anything else. Sorry.
I absolutely have been trying to fit Anasir into books basically since my first Scion book. And this was the right place and the right time. So thank you for letting me do that.
Awesome. So Coyote, Jeffrey, you've been hearing things. What do either of you have questions? I mean, I imagine that you do, but like what which one of you wants to be the one to jump in and go, what is, or what about, or hey.
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go. Do the this is kind of a specific one, but do the Kiore, because they're one of my favorite Titans. Do they show up at all in this one? Am I allowed to ask that? Is that okay? They're Atua, if that helps.
I wrote the. Let me actually pull what I wrote.
Yeah,
Let
like they
me
should.
pull. I think so. I don't. It was kind of a blur at that point, to be honest.
Oh, that's okay.
But
Of course, I asked like the complicated thing.
Oh no, I just I couldn't. My brain has leaked out of my ears since then for sure.
Same.
But the Atua were a lot of fun to write. I do want to, since we're talking to you two, I do want to give Padre a shout out here, because he wrote the Plant Zone in Once and Future, which is where the gods from that are going to show up. And I got the Welsh Pantheon assigned as part of the I think it's like 10,000 words of pantheons for this particular book. And I was like, it's very fractional, like the stuff that we have about Welsh mythology. And I was like, Padre, please tell me, give me some pointers, put me in a direction, because if you get me started, I'll be fine. And not being on the book at all, I was really, really grateful that he was able to kind of point me in a direction and get me started. And a lot of this stuff and a lot of perspectives that he gave me really informed how they came out in the book. So thank you very, very much for that.
At the very least, the Kiore appear in Demigod Companion.
Yeah, I wrote them for Demigod Companion.
Well, then.
They were, yeah, and they were one of my favorites to write for, because like Spider was talking about how with Titans and with Scion in general, you kind of get to explore the idea of a being that has so many different aspects. And all of those aspects are sometimes its own thing, or sometimes part of a whole, or both at the same time. And so with the Kiore kind of being like almost a hive mind, they were one of my favorites to write for, and I was like really super interested to see, did they get expanded upon? Like,
so
what are we looking at?
We actually very purposefully tried to avoid doubling up too much. So I was like, I feel like that's a familiar name, but it didn't feel like something I had written, and they did not make a direct appearance because we were attempting to make sure that we weren't simply we all love Tiamat, but Tiamat has showed up a million times, right? And we want to make sure we weren't doing that necessarily with the pantheons that were showing up in Titans Rising. We want to make sure that we were truly expanding them. There are some things where there is some overlap with previous books where we do expand or give a different face to or do a different mantle of, but those are in the minority, and the Kiore are not one of the ones that do show up, not directly with our own listing. I think that they are referred to, but they're mostly we're looking for adding in like Mahuiku and Apapa, the Eternal Mother and stuff like that, and trying to give sometimes a titanic aspect of a deity, but not doubling down on things that have already been shown as Titans.
However, I will say one thing is that one of the stretch goals is more antagonists.
Yes.
So we could still have Kiore. Also,
from what I wrote at this time, they weren't as a listing, so that's what I.
But it sounds like there's like some really cool other Atuan stuff going on. So
I sure hope that people think that they're cool. I had a lot of fun, working with them, and I sure hope that people enjoy what comes out there for sure.
Yeah, I like with Titans specifically, there's certain pantheons that really lean into, Titan or God, or both, or neither, or
Yes.
and that's one of the ones that do that.
Yeah, I tried to the more that I read, the more the research that I did, the more I found that there's a lot of I don't want to say ambiguity is not the right word, but I guess ambiguity is as close as we're gonna get. Where a lot of the Atu and a lot of Pacific myth really is much more human than iconic, I guess. Rather, like their gods are much more people, where some of the other pantheons are much more outlines of people and symbols and things like that. And so I tried to kind of lean into that and to lean into the complicatedness of their motivations and their actions, and how someone can be all of these things in the self-contained, universe of a person. So,
and the connection too between their human or more human aspects and nature as well. There's a very deep elemental bond there, where there's sort of a symbiosis between who they are as sort of a facet of humanity that is also directly and deeply tied to the land or an aspect of the land. And I thought that's one of the most interesting things to me about that pantheon and about Titans in general.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with them specifically for that reason. There is a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of very human emotion. And obviously all, deities are created by people, so it all carries that. But there's a lot of very individual feeling, like where you feel like you are, a lot of times when you're reading specifically, Polynesian and Pacific Island myths, where you feel like someone is telling you the gossip about their great uncle, and it's a very personal relationship, where people are very closely related to, these deities. And I really resonated with that, being Jewish. That is the thing that I really resonated with,
Tutu in particular.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Mahuika really had that, like, that feeling for me as well. I really enjoyed, and because Mahuika also is multi-gendered in traditional mythical representation, so that I really enjoyed them. And they're very, very passionate and, very angry. And, I just really, really enjoyed being able to mess around with those myths.
That's super exciting. Awesome.
I wanted to give Jeffrey a chance to ask a question, but first, you got a question from the chat, which is, how does Titans Rising, or whether or not Titans Rising overlaps with the Dragon? And the answer is, it very much does. In fact, of the 5 signature characters for it, the 5 ready-made characters, one of them is actually just straight up a dragon. Shh! Don't tell her bandmates. But like, Titans can have the destroyer calling, dragons can have the destroyer calling, and if you have beef with a god, maybe you will throw in with Titans during the Tatanumaki. So like Koi is actually oh damn it. Sorry. Blanked for a second there. Yukiko Kudomizu from Heroes of the World, the Japanese Okinawan woman with a green sword running around chopping things up. That's her sister or half sister. And they they were raised separately. Koe's father is Kuna, Tunuroa, and he's a dick. he's straight up a dick. He is in Tatanamaki, or in Dragon, they told his story and from his perspective. But even within that framework, he's not necessarily a good person, which naturally leads to him not being a very good dad. So when there's the family reunion, things go really poorly. And now they have beef. Yes, Yukiko Kurumizu. Yeah, they're half sisters. And Koe is not a bad person. In fact, none of the Titanic Scions are bad people. It's just that circumstances have conspired in a way that have put them and the gods on opposite sides, which is something that happens to mortals. It definitely happens to gods. Why would it not happen to the children of gods? Jeffrey, do you have any fun questions, things you would like to know?
Well, maybe I can just throw out one broad one rather than asking for specific spoilers. For the people who wrote different sections, and I don't know if we have the person who wrote the story guiding section here specifically, do you feel there are sort of particular themes that you wanted to hit with Titans Rising that you didn't as much with Titanimaki? I mean, do you lean people towards stories of, I don't know, revolution or regaining past glory? If you take the idea, you know, that's was at least popular among academics, that, you know, one generation's Titans were the last generation's gods. Or is there, I can see so many opportunities, you know, anti-colonial ones or rising up against oppressors and so on and so on. Is there guidance for players who want to investigate those things?
Yeah, so certainly in the story guiding section and throughout, actually, a lot of these themes come up, of course, when you look at antagonists or Titans themselves or our ready-made characters. One of the big themes that we chose to emphasize is self-determination, right? And what it means to be connected to something or someone who is perceived as the evil to end all evils. And to what extent you want to follow in their footsteps versus define your own path versus dig into that perception and address the fact that Titans aren't necessarily the bad guys. They're the ones who lost the PR war effectively. So that's one of the big things that comes up. Another is freedom, which is kind of the same thing from a different perspective, because a lot of culture myths have their Titans in exile or in chains or imprisoned, and freedom as a right comes through, I think, really strongly in a lot of the stories that we're telling in this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like Kat was saying, like that's even reflected with the ready-made characters, like our very first one in alphabetical order is Ferro, who is a non-binary Afro-Brazilian who gets unintentionally screwed by poster boy Eric Donner. Like it's neither of their faults. However, the fact that Eric is a white celebrity and Federal is Afro-Brazilian, there's a power differential there, and Federal paid the price for it. Fortunately, they don't start as criminals. They don't start as a criminal, and I avoided the hell out of the kill your gays trope. So Federal and their boyfriend still together. They're but life is way harder now that neither of those two can become professional artists because they had the road shut to them because essentially of post-colonial pressures. And at least at hero tier, there's a bit of a comeuppance there because in the origin tier version of the character sheet, they have a goal in mind. And in the hero version, they've achieved the goal, which is to take Giant's Bane away from Eric Donor. And for folks who don't remember what that is, that's it.
So I would argue that it is kind of Eric's fault, but I find that to be one of the most interesting things that was done with that character. I didn't create that character, but when you told me about them, I was really excited because I think that it is very easy to get into the idea that we are the good guys and therefore the things we do are good. And I think that a lot of the stuff that was written in this particular book really challenges that kind of traditional hero villain, Titan god narrative, where there are certainly a lot of errors that Eric made. There are a lot of mistakes that he made, and a lot of places where he went and did a thing somewhere that he didn't speak the language, and didn't understand the culture, didn't know what he was doing. He charged in being a hero, and you can do a lot of damage that way, and I think that is for me, in my style of storytelling and the kind of stories that I like to tell, that kind of upending of the traditional narrative, right? I find really interesting. People who are outside of that traditional narrative often get crushed under its wheels, and this gives an opportunity to bring those people back into that narrative and give them their just desserts. But you can't do that without pointing out how maybe white boy, you shouldn't have charged in like that. Maybe you should have cooled your heels, kid of Thor, and not blasted in like a thunderstorm. It's understandable that you would, right? And maybe that's in your nature to do so, but there are consequences and there are downsides, and there are people that you hurt, and those people have stories too, and those stories are just as interesting to tell. So I was super excited. I don't know who I should be giving credit to for that. Please, I love you as always. Because it was beautiful. Like, you were like, oh, I'm sorry, like Eric. I'm like, no, tell this, no, please do. Like, Eric is a very stereotypical Aether. And I think that it is very due for some of those, traditional heroes to have the stuff that's underneath the rock, and what's underneath the rug that's been swept there for so very long, to see those things coming back out into the light, and to have those stories be a thing that people can really tell, I think is very, very exciting.
Yeah. Actually wanted to touch on the RMCs one more time, and then I'll shut up about them and let someone else have fun. But talking about themes of self-determinism, Karen, who is a scion of Huracan, and Jeffrey's excited because he knows where Karen came from. And Rick, who is a scion of Ethnician. Both of them have tremendous parental pressure to turn out a certain way, to do a certain thing. And Rick's road is especially treacherous because Rick wants to upset the social order. he's a hacktivist and wants to hack stuff, overthrow the system, break the system, which is also what Ephnesian wants to do a little bit. But if he does it Ephnesian's way, then people are getting thrown into cauldrons and boiled. So, it's not great. And Karen, Hurukan is a hell of a parent to have, and it's gonna be her road is chaos no matter what. What comes out of that chaos is gonna depend on you, the player. We are running to the end of our time, so I want to go around and have folks say just a little something about like what they're excited about, what they want, like people to say any kind of thing that they are interested in spouting off real quick, because you deserve more time to talk. We'll go reverse order as previous. Kat.
Too many things. A small thing that I can say quickly. The Pacific Garbage Patch is now Terra Incognita, and you can fight over it and claim it, and that is extremely cool.
Yes. Jeffrey.
I just want to see all of this. And I mean, we're only a few hours into the Kickstarter, and the amount of excitement that I've seen just over a couple of knacks, I think bodes well for everything else and all the reactions you're going to get. So congratulations to everyone.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Zachary.
Wu Dang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yes. Spider, back to you again.
So I got to do Titans for the Ilum, and they are some of my favorite that I've gotten to do. I'm very excited about that. And you mentioned Ephnesian. I am happy that I was, at least in the draft that I turned in, he got to stay as much of a, not everybody has to have a gray or morally ambiguous side. He's just an asshole. And he's terrible, and he got to stay the terrible asshole. But you get to see where you can understand why he became a terrible asshole, which to me is as exciting as just about anything else. But also I got to do the Ilum, and since I just looked at it, we just passed 2/3 of the way to goal. We're over 20,000 now.
Nice.
So very excited about that.
Oh, hey, I'm next. Yeah, with Jeffrey, I'm excited for people to see everything, because there's just so much goodness in this book that I can't pick one thing. I know that I've been talking about the ready-made characters a lot, but like there's good stuff throughout the whole book, and I want people to see it and nerd out like I do, like we all do, really. Ramos.
I like everyone here, I think I'm very excited to see everything pop out. I'm most excited to see the reactions from people, I guess, because Titanomachy was so well loved by everyone, it seems. That this is I'm so interested to see the reactions, and I love like morally gray stuff, and to see like the quote unquote villains getting another highlight and getting and then another being able to be a part of it was crazy to me. And I have a game that I run here on Onyx Path where there is a Scion in their band, and they are making morally ambiguous decisions. The heart of their group is kind of left, and they're kind of leaning more into like Titanic stuff, and there is a lot of collateral. It's very cool to see all of that. I'm very excited to see people's reactions to the Titanic perspective, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
Nice. Coyote, what are you hyped about?
I'm just happy to be here, and I'm so proud of the work everybody has done. Like, y'all are so great, and you worked so hard on this, and it's amazing to see the reception that it's getting. And yeah, I just can't wait to see more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we hop off, wanted to answer Salocinian's question. Primeval is one of the Titanic callings. Basically, the idea is that someone someone with that calling is part of the world or the realms, generally like a sort of fundamental part of it, like the ocean, the fire, volcano. Like it tends to be very primal forces, which is hence the cognate name primeval. So they're not primordials where they are the whole thing and they're in one like discrete unit, but primevals are sort of a little bit less of that, but still in the same vein, where they are very much embodying what element or aspect of the world they're drawing on or born from. For example, Daijin is all about electricity and lightning, like lightning specifically, thunder specifically, really. And so like that he embodies that, which is why he has drums floating around him. And if you go hang out with him, go bring earplugs because you will go deaf. And I think we are slightly over time, but very close to time. So thank you all for watching. Hope everyone learned stuff. And I'm glad to have all of you here with me on this panel because you fucking rock. We'll see you all throughout the campaign. Cheers.
We are clear.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, got a jam.